Welcome back to Mastering Google Ads, and let's get straight into Module 2. And what we're going to be talking about in this module is the different types of Google Ads campaigns. So in this lesson, I'm definitely not going to be taking you through all the ins and outs of every single type of campaign. What I want to do at this level is I just want to give you a broad overview of all of the different types of Google Ads campaigns that you can use. And then we'll start breaking it down to some different scenarios. And this will have you in a really good position so that when we come to really go through and set up the different types of campaigns and show the different test cases of when you use the different types of campaigns, you've already got a brief idea and a core understanding of the different types of campaigns that you can use in Google Ads. You may not believe it, but there are actually 10 different types of Google Ads campaigns right now that you can use. So there's search, shopping, performance max, display, video, and demand gen. And they are the 6 campaigns which we are really focusing on in this course. But there are also some other types of campaigns: smart app campaigns, hotel campaigns, and also things to do campaigns, which is a tourism-based campaigns. But in this course, we're really going to be focusing on the core 6 campaigns of search, shopping, performance max, display, video, and demand gen. So it's important to remember that with Google Ads that you are not only targeting by keywords. Now, this is something that we spoke about in the first module, but I do want to reinforce it again. And remembering that when you're targeting your Google Ads, it's not only by keywords, because you can also do it by location, language, audiences, demographics, time of day, day of week. So when your ads are being shown, different devices, placements, and also your own created customer lists. But let's go through and break this down further. So the keywords. Now, these are the search terms that you will target. So you can actually nominate different search terms. So, kids swimming lessons, best beach towels, whatever the situation is. Then the location. So this is the physical location that people live, and this can be targeted by region, country, state, city, postcode or zip code, depending on where you live in the world. Language, that's obviously the default language of their browser or the language that the search is being completed in. So for an example there, let's just say you're borrowing a friend's computer and they may speak Spanish, but you completed the search in English. Google would show you up English-based results. Audiences, and these are the groups of people with specific interests, intents, and demographics that Google grouped together. Remembering, if you went to that website, My Ad Center, it would show you the groups that Google's got you in. So the audiences or the groups of people that Google has assigned you to. And then the demographics, and these are subgroups within Google broken down by your age, gender, income range, and parental status. This is changing slightly because I know in some areas like Europe, you can now no longer give data around income range. So it does depend on where you are based and where you're targeting to, but for most places outside of Europe, you can still target by age, gender, and income. Time of day and day of week. This is obviously the hours of the day you want your ads to be active, and then also the days of the week. As I said, you could break this down to you only want your ads to show between 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then you can have different times for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Devices, you can target or exclude ads by computer, tablet, phone, and also TV now, but you can also do this by different browsers. So let's just say that you had a application that was only valid for Google Chrome internet browsers, so you could make sure that your ads only went to Chrome users. Placements, you can target or exclude websites, apps, and YouTube channels. And the way that I want you to think about placements is, I might be showing my age here a little bit, but I remember when I was at university, we would know the exact places in the university where we'd be able to go see the flyers to see what bands were playing over the weekend. And we knew the placements that gave us the best information. And that's essentially what your placements is all about. You can really break it down to find the best websites that are most suited for your business. And this is all about where your ads appear. And your customer lists. Now, these are the lists of your customers, which can be manually uploaded into Google Ads. So then you can target your current customers or previous customers. The other thing you can do with customer lists is you can build out customer lists from your website tracking to create lists such as product page viewers, cart abandoners, or even non-converters. This is a little bit more of an advanced skill, which will be definitely breaking out, but perfect test case of this is, let's just say that you wanted to set up a remarketing display image-based campaign that only targeted people who had been to your website but hadn't purchased. With a customer list, you can basically upload that and you can say, we only want these ads to go to people who have been on our website but are not part of this customer list. So there are different ways and test cases that you can use your customer lists in order to really target and get more specific with your marketing. So remember this, it's not just about keywords. Keywords is highly important to Google Ads, but remember, in addition to keyword targeting, you can also add targeting to your ads by these additional targeting options. So for example, you could create a campaign to target keywords around the theme of baby earmuffs for noise protection. And you could assign it so that your ads only went to people who are part of the new parents audience, and they also had to be over 25, and you only wanted to target people living in Sydney, Brisbane, or Melbourne. So rather than just setting up a campaign that goes to anyone who searches baby earmuffs for noise protection, you can refine it and saying, well, they have to be part of the new parents audience, they have to be over 25, and they have to live in these areas. So they're the type of extra layers that you can add to your targeting for Google Ads to make it more specific for what your business needs. So keywords, this is all about the search terms that you will target. Now, one thing that I really want you to hone on, if you're new to Google Ads, this slide may not mean as much to you, but if you've been involved in Google Ads since before 2021, if you had any experience with Google Ads before that point, I really need you to understand this next point. Google now targets the meaning or user intent of the search rather than the actual keywords that you have selected to target. So we are going to go through and discuss the different targeting options that you've got in Google Ads, because there are 3 different types. But when we get to the keyword module, I will break this out further. But the main thing I want you to really understand right now is that Google targets the meaning or the user intent of the search rather than the actual keywords that they've selected to target. At the moment, there are still 3 different types of keyword match types that you can use to target your keywords. And these are broad match. As the name suggests, this is the most broadest option. Now, these screenshots I'm giving you are directly from Google. If you were to have the broad match keyword of low carb diet plan, you could show for ads that have the same meaning. So low carb would mean the same as carb-free foods, low carb diets, low calorie recipes. But then it also picks up something like Mediterranean diet books. And the reason for that is because Google is assigning the same meaning. So low carb diet plan would mean the same as a Mediterranean diet. So that's just something to be aware of, that Google adds its own meaning. So you do have to be aware of that when you're using broad match keywords. Now, when it comes to this is a benefit, but it's also a negative. And what you really need to weigh up is, we've had some examples where we've used broad match and it's opened up and created new keyword themes that we'd never even thought about. But you also have to be really, really careful, because it can also waste some spend. So we will go through, when we go through the optimization process, to really put some strategies in so that you can get the best of both worlds. But broad match keywords can be a really powerful tool when used the right way. The next option is the phrase match, and phrase match is where it's showing that if you were to do the phrase match of tennis shoes, and the way that you mark your phrase match is that you have these little apostrophes in here, is that it would still show for ads like shoes for tennis, buy tennis shoes on sale, or red tennis shoes. The thing that is really, really different if you were part of Google Ads before 2021 is that with the tennis shoes, with the phrase match, what it would mean is that it would have to include those keywords. It could just be in any order. But now it's expanded out to, tennis shoes can actually include words that aren't in this phrase match, like comfortable tennis sneakers. And then exact match, which is added in by those square brackets, this is the most exact, as the name suggests, but especially for those who were part of Google Ads before 2021, the exact match targeting does not operate like it used to. Exact match targeting used to operate that it would only show for people who searched shoes for men in that order. If they searched what are the best shoes for men, that would not appear, whereas now that would. Or if they searched men's shoes, anything in the wrong order, it would not work. Now, the other thing that I would say in through here is that these are the examples that Google has given, and it's saying that your ad, it wouldn't show for shoes for boys. I agree with that, but something like men's tennis shoes, we've still seen real cases where exact match keywords of shoes for men have triggered ads for things like men's tennis shoes. So that's just something to be aware of. Once again, when we get later through the course, I'll really give you some extra strategies on how to review this and to really make sure that you're getting the most relevant searches for your campaign. So that's keywords. Now let's talk about the location. And this is the physical location that people live. And this can be targeted by region, country, state. city, or your postcode. Now, when it comes to location targeting, there are two options for location targeting, and I'm going to show both of them now, then we'll explain them. So firstly, there's presence and interest and presence. So presence and interest is the default setting. So if you don't manually change this, it will just default to presence and interest, and it targets people who are physically in your targeted location or have performed a search that has shown interest in your targeted location. Think of it like this. So let's just say, for example, someone from Australia is searching for a hotel in London, or they have a history of searching for things around London holidays. If they were to just complete a search, hotel accommodation, they would also likely see London listings as well, because especially if it's in the same session and Google is seeing that, hey, this person is searching about a holiday for London, if they were to switch over to book a hotel, it would show London listings. Presence only shows your ads to people who are located or commonly located in your target area. So in that example, because I was performing the search from Australia, even if I had done all searches around London holidays, all of those things, if the campaign was set to presence only, and then I completed a search about hotels, it wouldn't show me the London listings. So once again, this is something you need to think about with your business. There's really pros and cons around it, but what you need to just be aware of is that the presence and interest is the default setting. So if you don't want it to operate like that, you need to change it. And then you also have the option to exclude different postcodes, zip codes, cities, countries, or states. So you could do a worldwide campaign, but then block out all of Europe, say for example, or you could do a Southern Hemisphere campaign, but block out Australia and New Zealand. So there's different options that you've got. So you can not only target, but you can also add exclusions. When it comes to exclusions, a real common one that we do see is that people might be targeting USA, but they may want it to be a USA mainland campaign. So they might exclude Hawaii and Alaska and only want to target mainland states of America. Okay, languages. Now, as we said before, this is where you target the default language of their browser or the language that the search is being completed in. When it comes to setting up campaigns, if you've got a product that you want to be advertising to multiple languages, I recommend that you only have one language targeted in a campaign. The reason for that is because Google does not translate your ad copy. An example of this is that one of the first campaigns that we ever ran, actually the first campaign we ever ran, was for our villa resort in Bali, which we set up in 2010. And we had a campaign that was targeting the English speakers, and then we had a separate campaign that was targeting Indonesian speakers. So we're going for the local market, then also the tourism market, and they sent people to different websites. But the reason why we broke them out into different campaigns is once again so that we could really target in on the language to get the best results for that account. Now, these are two practical examples, and once again, they're directly from Google. So the first one is Pat understands both English and Spanish. While her mobile browser is set to Spanish, her other activity on Google strongly suggests she speaks English too, and many of her search queries are also in English, such as buy shoes online. She would therefore be eligible to see ads that target either English or Spanish when the keywords match. So what they're saying in that case though is that she may enter a query in Spanish but see an ad in English, and that really comes down to the previous history. There's another example. Maya has viewed several cooking blogs on the Google Display Network that are written in Japanese, and she sees ads from campaigns targeted to Japanese speaker. She may also see ads even when she reads other blogs on the Display Network that are written in English because of her viewing history. The biggest thing to think about here is that Google does take the browser history into account, not only the settings, but also what that person has been searching. So that's why I recommend, if you are going to have campaigns for different languages, that you do set them into different campaigns. Don't have them in the same campaign, because the user can see both things, but Google does not translate your ads. And for me, that's the biggest thing, is because obviously remembering we want the highest relevancy. If someone's completing the ad search in a certain language, so let's say for Japanese, it'd be better to see the ads in Japanese in that language. Time of the day, day of the week. And this is something that's really, really common for service-based businesses who are focused on generating phone calls. They'll set their campaigns to only run while they're open. For example, Blue Skips is a waste removal company that only operates between 8 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday to Friday, and then they're open from 8 to 12 on Saturdays. So they set their campaigns to only be active during these days and hours. And you can do this through something which is called an ad schedule, but that's a perfect example of why you may want to limit when your ads are shown at certain days or times of the week. Your audience audiences, remembering these are the groups of people with specific interests. I just want to show you there are some different areas of the audience. So there's affinity, and this is where you reach users based on what they're passionate about and their habits and interests. Your detailed demographics, these reach users based on long-term life data, like their age, also the companies they work for. I'm going to break this all down for you in the next slide. In market, this reaches users based on their recent purchase intent. So the in market is, if you consider this is someone who's ready to buy or ready to convert for your product or service. And then your data segments or remarketing, that's where you can reach users who have interacted with your business type previously. So here are some lists of audiences and each type of audience. So when I was saying the affinity, this is like whether they're interested in baking and finance or food and dining or home and garden. And this really looks at what have they been searching about and what do they commonly show interest in. Your detailed demographics go into things like their education level, whether they're employed at the moment, what size of employer they work for, whether they own a home, so whether they're a home owner or a renter. And then the in-market, this is really looking at what are they looking at buying? Now, the difference between the affinity and in-market is it's really looking at what are they interested in right now that they're actually buying. So you may see some things across here. So you can see affinity where they're a shopper and may go, look, these people shop a lot. But the in-market really breaks it down to what are they looking at buying right now, whether it be apparel and accessories or babies and children's products. And then your data segments, these are things that you are adding up into Google. So these are either your customer lists, which you're adding, or different segments. So you can set different rules inside of Google Analytics where you go that if people view this page, we want them to be part of this data segment. Now, when it comes to demographics, they obviously run very, very similar to audiences, but these are really broken down by hard terms. So like your age. Now, the way that Google breaks down age, it's either 18 to 24, and then it goes up in 10-year brackets, 25 to 34, up to 55 to 64. Gender is breaking it through there, and then your different income ranges, and then finally the parental status. Now, you'll see at the top there, every demographic has an unknown, and that really comes down to where people have opted out of sharing their demographics. I will say that due to changing government regulations and cookies policies, the unknown groups are getting larger and larger, but at the moment you are still seeing quite a lot of this data. Then with their devices, so some businesses have specific reasons to run different campaigns to different devices. And let me give you some examples. First example is an e-commerce brand offers a 15% discount for mobile users as it encourages app downloads, so they run a separate mobile only campaign. So what they're doing there is because they really wanted to drive extra sales through their app, they're running a campaign which only goes to mobile users. Then example B, a computer restoration and reselling business reviews their device data to see that 90% of their sales come from searches using a desktop, but it only accounts for 60% of their ad spend. So what they do, they make the decision to exclude mobile and tablet devices. What I'm really wanting you to pick up, as I know we're going rapid fire through all of these targeting options, the big thing I want you to really pick up is that there are so many different options in Google Ads to add in these extra layers of optimization and these extra layers of targeting. It's not just about keywords. It's about targeting people who are searching this, but they are also part of this demographic, or they are also using this device. And placements. So over the past couple of years, Google has introduced campaigns that advertise across a multiple of networks like PerformanceMax and Demand Gen. Once again, as I said, if you don't know what those two campaigns are, don't worry, we'll be getting there very soon. One downside of these campaigns is that they can generate low quality traffic because they find cheaper CPCs on apps and low quality websites. A great strategy to combat this is to review your placements and then add in any underperforming websites or apps as exclusions. Now, when we get to the optimization part, I'll show you how you can go through and practically do that. But what I want you to take away right now is that it's not only about what you're targeting in Google Ads, but it's also about what you're not targeting. And one of the great ways for success with Google Ads is by really refining your search, by adding in extra exclusions. So you're saying, look, Google, show my ads, but don't show them on this website or don't show them on this YouTube channel. And that's, once again, a great way for success with Google Ads. And then your customer lists. What I want to speak about here is due to companies like Apple no longer sharing their device data and governments regulating the data that websites can collect, customer lists are becoming a powerful way to better target your campaigns. So for example, success with campaigns such as PerformanceMax need accurate conversion data for best results. So if you add your customer lists, you're basically saying to Google, these are the people who are more likely to convert. So can you find similar people to my current customers. So what I want to do, and to finish up, is I just want to break down the different types of campaigns and with the different types of ads, where they search, who they're suitable for, and what they can focus on. As I said, at the moment, we're still very much broad brush view, and we'll be coming down and refining this information. But these next two slides are going to be something that you can refer to in the future, and you can kind of see a broad level of where you would use these different types of campaigns. So with your search campaigns, it's important to note that they show text ads only on the search network. The search network is obviously go and do a Google search and you see those results. And this is suitable for service-based e-commerce or software as a service, really suitable for everyone. And with search campaigns, you can focus on new clients, existing clients, and also remarketing. Shopping is very, very similar to your search ads, but the difference being with your shopping ads, you also get the product image there, but it's set on the shopping network, but the shopping network is part of the search network. The shopping ads are only for e-commerce brands because you do need to have a merchant feed with products. And once again, new clients, existing clients, and remarketing. Now, Performance Max, this is where it changes a little bit because Performance Max is really dubbed as an all-in-one campaign. So it can show text ads, shopping ads, and it can also not show shopping ads. So if you're not an e-commerce brand, you can also use Performance Max, image, Google, Maps, and also video ads. Once again, Performance Max shows on everything. So search, display, maps, Gmail, and YouTube. It is good for everything, but the one thing I would focus on with Performance Max, and it's really letting you know, is that it's not as tight of a targeting, which we'll explain on the next slide. With your display, these are image-based ads, and they display on the display network. And the display network, as I said earlier, is when you are on a website, and if you see a company's ad, that's the display network. So it's basically image ads that follow you around the internet. If you've ever been onto a website and then for the next week, whenever you're checking the sport or the weather, you see that same company's image ads, that's a display campaign which you're seeing. Video ads, as the name suggests, these are video ads which appear on YouTube. The one thing I would say with video ads is that they're different to other campaign types. And what I mean by that is that success with video ads is more heavily reliant on the quality of the ad. So with text ads, the great thing about Google Ads is that it's a level playing field because even large companies still have to follow the same font formats, the same text formats, the same character limits in their ads. Whereas with video ads, if you are going to delve into video ads, you do need to make sure that you've got some quality ads coming up. And then Demand Gen, which is Google's newest campaign that we're going to be teaching on in this course. And that's got a collection of video ads and image ads. And your ads are shown on the YouTube, but also Gmail networks. And for Demand Gen, we're really seeing that this is very much for new clients and really top of funnel strategies. So now I just want to take you through some of the pros and cons of the different types of Google Ads campaigns. We're going to break this down to your ability to be able to target by keywords and audiences, the control of the ad copy you have, and also the different conversion endpoints. So for search, you've got a high level of control around the keyword targeting. So you can not only have exact match targeting, but you can also add in negative keywords. You've got a high level of control over ad copy. Now, the reason why I put that little asterisk there is that it's not as the same amount of control as what you previously had, but out of all the different types of campaigns, it's the highest control that you've got. And the conversion endpoints is really anything from emails to form completions to booking sales calls to phone calls, whatever you want to do. Shopping, you've got high control over the audience and keyword targeting, and also high control over the ad copy. With shopping, you're not creating ads, but the data is grabbed from your product titles. And obviously for shopping, it's really about generating online sales. Performance Max. Now, this is the one where you've got low control. So you have low control over keyword targeting and audience targeting. One thing I really want to stress is that you can't control Performance Max. So for search, you know how we said that you can also target to specific audiences and demographics. With Performance Max, you can't do that. You can't say that we don't want it to go to these audiences. You can add some controls around the ages and locations, but you don't have the same amount of control as what you have for search or shopping, and same with the ad copy. Display campaigns, you've got a high level of control. Now, you do have options for display to really open up to wide targeting where Google takes more control, but you can also do really targeted display campaigns where you're saying, I only want this to go to people who have been on our website in the last 30 days. And you've got moderate control over the ad copy. Google is trying to move to more responsive ads where they create them for you. But at this stage, you can still control it. Video, you've got high control of the ad copy because you're creating the whole ad. But in terms of targeting, it is getting looser and looser. And you were able to specifically target individual YouTube channels, but slowly that is being restricted. And then Demand Gen is similar to Performance Max where, you've got low control, but you do have a higher level of control over the ad because you can create create your own video ads. Now, for conversion endpoints, with all of these campaigns, the one that's the real difference is really shopping. And because the shopping is really only for sales only. With all the other campaign types, you can make arguments that, you can do email form completions, phone calls, all of those things. But for shopping, very much driven by sales. All right, so that was a lot that we went through. Once again, we're still very much in the mode of just giving you an overview and really broad information. But what we are going to be doing is from now on, we're going to be starting to get really more specific into the individual skill sets that you need for managing Google Ads.